Welcome to the Image of History channel. Take a nostalgic trip down memory lane with these vintage photos that show just how strange daily life in America used to be. I'm curious, how many do you recognize? By the end, you might find yourself laughing, cringing, or feeling grateful for modern times. In 1913, a couple in Ohio did something unimaginable, yet it started a trend of one of the most bizarre things ever. The couple realized that sending their baby as a package through the U.S. Postal Service was cheaper than buying a train ticket and traveling all the way to Grandma's house. So they mailed the baby to Grandma, and it arrived safely. When the story made the news, it quickly became a trend. People began sending their babies through mail to their family members across the U.S. until it was officially banned in 1920. It's just common sense that married couples should sleep in the same bed in their home, right? Well, that wasn't always the case, especially in the mid-20th century. Back then, it was more common for a husband and wife to sleep on separate beds, even in their room. They believed that sharing a bed could lead to the spread of illness or germs. This makes me wonder how they had children if they were not sharing a bed. Worrying about health insurance wasn't always a thing. In fact, rather than go to the hospital for treatment, people preferred using home remedies and folk medicine. These home remedies are made from household ingredients and are often used to treat minor ailments like colds, cuts, or stomach aches, while folk medicine might involve herbs, rituals, or spiritual elements. How do you think people preserved their food or got cold drinks before the invention of refrigerators? Families used to rely on insulated cabinets called ice boxes. Blocks of ice can be placed in an ice box, which will be used to cool the inside and preserve food from getting spoiled. These blocks of ice would slowly melt and had to be replaced when finished. This made ice cutting and delivery one of the most lucrative businesses of that era. It was during this period that people also used the wringer washer. The wringer was a hand-cranked or motorized device with two rollers that squeezed out excess water from washed clothes. It was typically attached to a wash tub. After scrubbing clothes on a washboard, the clothes were then fed through the wringer to squeeze the water out. This is where the phrase "pass through the wringer" came from. Wringers made laundry easier, but it was still labor-intensive. It also had many safety risks, as people could easily lose a finger if it got caught in the rollers. Isn't a running tap in the house just convenient? However, before someone had the bright idea to do that, most people had to fetch water from a well. The lucky ones were the ones who had the well within their compounds. Well, the less fortunate ones would have to go quite a distance from their houses to fetch water from a well, and then carry that bucket of water home to bathe or cook with. In the US now, you cannot smoke legally unless you're at least 21 years old. However, it wasn't uncommon in the past to see children smoke, although some states had laws restricting the use of tobacco for minors. The enforcement of those laws was often lax, and social attitudes were much more permissive. It wouldn't be weird to see parents teaching their children how to smoke, or even sharing a blunt with their teenagers. Smoking was not the only thing the law had to protect children from in recent times. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, child labor in factories was widespread in the United States. Children as young as 5 or 6 years old worked in textile mills, coal mines, glass factories, and other industrial settings. Families often relied on children's wages to survive, especially in poor and immigrant communities. After child labor laws banned factories from hiring children, many children began working on farms because farming was largely exempt from early labor regulations. Farming was seen as a family responsibility and wasn't considered dangerous to children, unlike factory work. Even now, child labor in agriculture has not fully disappeared. It's perfectly legal for children from the age of 12 to work long hours on farms, while younger kids can work on family farms. If you're the type that loves to take a shower every day, then you were born in the right era. Due to limited access to plumbing, water, and heating, it was once normal for people to take their baths only once a week. I guess everybody must have had body odor, so nobody would really notice it. Daily bathing only became a norm by the 20th century with the spread of indoor plumbing and modern hygiene awareness. Before vacuum cleaners became common, people beat rugs to remove dust and dirt. It was a labor-intensive chore, but it was the standard way to clean carpets and rugs. They would hang rugs or carpets over a clothesline, fence, or railing. Then they'd repeatedly whack the hell out of it with a rug beater to shake out embedded dust and debris. One important training for babies in any generation is potty training. In earlier times, babies used to be trained even before they were a year old. That's because diapers used to be expensive and hard to wash, so many children did not have them. Have you ever heard someone say something stupid like, "Women belong in the kitchen"? Well, some years ago, it wasn't considered stupid. It was just a normal thing. Husbands went out to work and provide for their families while the women stayed at home taking care of the children. So it was generally considered that a woman's place was in the kitchen where she could prepare meals for the family. To make things even harder for women back then, there were no machines to make chores around the house easy. Unlike now, there wasn't even a mop stick back then to clean the floors. Imagine how tough their lives must have been. They would get down on their hands and knees to scrub floors with rags, brushes, or sponges. This ensured a deep clean, but it comes at the cost of your back. Drive-in movies were a popular form of entertainment, especially in the 1940s to 1970s, where people could watch films from their cars in large outdoor theaters. They became wildly popular after World War II, and by the late 1950s, there were over 4,000 drive-in theaters across the U.S. The convenience of sitting in your parked car to enjoy a movie made it a popular hangout for families with kids and also for dating couples. The rise of TV, home video, and indoor multiplex theaters caused a decline in drive-in theaters. Only baby boomers will remember what it felt like to use a rotary phone. They used to be popular from the early 1900s to the 1980s before being replaced by push-button phones. To use a rotary phone, you had to place a finger in the hole corresponding to each digit and rotate the dial clockwise until it stopped. It took a really long time to dial numbers, especially with higher digits, and you had to start over if you made a mistake. Back when refrigeration was rare, most people didn't have a way to keep milk fresh for long. So milk delivery was a common service in the US. Milkmen would drop off fresh milk in glass bottles on customers' doorsteps. Customers would also leave empty bottles outside for the milkman to pick up and return to the dairy for reuse. If children saw this device now, they would think it's a microwave or something. These bulky, square-shaped devices are box TVs. They used to dominate the American households up until the early 2000s, before the advent of flat-screen and plasma TVs. Back then, families would gather around the box TV for news, entertainment, and classic shows. However, by the 2010s, box TVs had mostly disappeared as they were being replaced by better picture quality and slimmer designs. It was mostly during that period that TV stations used to sign off late at night, usually around midnight to 2 a.m. It's unimaginable in this age of 24-hour broadcasting. However, the station would air a sign-off message, often including the national anthem, and then the screen would go black or show static until broadcasting resumed. Before streaming services like Netflix and Spotify took over the entertainment industry, VHS tapes and audio cassettes were the go-tos for entertainment at home. People could rent, buy, and record TV shows and movies on VHS tapes, while audio cassettes were popular for music and personal recordings. However, both formats declined with the rise of DVDs and CDs, and now even those have been fully replaced by digital media. There was also a time when public phone booths were a ubiquitous feature of American life. serving as essential communication hubs before the rise of cell phones. To use a public payphone in a phone booth, you would need to insert coins in them. While local calls were often at a flat rate, long-distance calls required more money. However, phone booths allowed free calls to dial 911 without coins. The rise of cell phones made phone booths largely obsolete, and now they are only seen as nostalgic relics or historical landmarks in some areas. Another nostalgic relic is the photo booth. Photo booths became popular in the early 20th century and gained widespread use in arcades, malls, train stations, and amusement parks. These booths let you take photos for fun, quick portraits, and passport photographs. Now that most smartphones have better quality cameras, nobody feels the need for photo booths. Something else nobody uses again now is the typewriter. Typewriters were widely used before computers became mainstream. They were essential for writing letters, documents, and manuscripts in homes and offices. The early models were manual and required strong key presses, while electric typewriters made typing easy. However, none of them could measure up to computers, which offered faster editing and digital storage. The next time you go to fill gas in your car, remember this: gas stations used to have attendants. These attendants would pump gas, clean windshields, check oil levels, and even inspect tire pressure for customers. This was common back when full-service stations were the norm. Over the years, self-service pumps became widespread and gas prices rose, making many stations switch to a self-service model. You know how you go to the restroom now and can stay there for almost an hour pressing your phone? That's not something you could ever do during the 19th century. And it wasn't just because phones didn't exist. It's because comfortable toilets didn't exist. People used a portable container called a chamber pot for their business. The content will then be disposed of so the pot can be reused. It's like a potty for adults. You know how you serve turkey during a Thanksgiving dinner with your family? There was a time when some families and even restaurants used fake turkeys as part of their Thanksgiving table settings. These were often made of paper mache, wax, or even wood, and were used as decorative centerpieces. In some cases, they were hollow and could be filled with smaller dishes or even real turkey meat. This was mostly due to turkey scarcity after World War II. However, now that turkeys have become more affordable, I really hope the turkey on your dinner table is edible. I'll keep bringing you real, interesting, and historic photos just like these, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on your notifications.